In what seems like a desperate attempt to avoid being sued, plonker David Lammy has had to make an apology after saying this shocking comment about Nigel Farage on BBC News.
Is Nigel Farage a racist?
I answered your question. I'm not going to play the man. I'm playing the ball as our leader did. I will leave it for the public to come to their own judgments about someone who once flirted with Hitler Youth when he was younger.
I'm sorry, what? Flirted with Hitler Youth when he was younger? Now you're probably thinking, where on earth is the evidence for that claim? Good question. Well, he was asked about that when he had to give this somewhat of an apology to the BBC later on in the day.
They also suggested that Nigel Farage had flirted with Hitler Youth. Now the party have said that's totally untrue, that's libelous, contemptuous.
It is.
What did you mean by that?
I think there were some articles circling around from a teacher, but I wasn't at school with Nigel Farage. I don't know what songs he sang at school, so I'm happy.
You have no evidence for that suggestion.
I'm happy to clarify. I did say it's for the public to make up their mind, and I.
Sorry, you said it's for the public to make up their mind. No. You did not say it's up to the public to make up their mind whether he was, involved or flirting with Hitler Youth when he was younger, right? You said it's up to the public to make up their mind as to whether Nigel Farage is a racist, given that he flirted with Hitler Youth when he was younger. Little bit different to what you're suggesting here.
I'd also emphasise that let us play the ball, not the man. So it's not my intention to play the man, Nigel Farage. In fact, I did a show with Nigel Farage on LBC a few years ago.
Why does that matter?
The policy, which is the deportation policy, his policies on the NHS, which I think is to charge, and his policies on lowering tax cuts, which would lead to the bond markets, not the man.
To be totally clear, you're pulling back from that comment that you made.
He has denied it. And so I accept that he has denied it, and I would like to clarify that position because in the end the Prime Minister was keen for us to focus on the policies, not the individual.
Let's talk about
the Prime Minister was keen for us to focus on the policies rather than the individual. Well, it's a little bit late for that now, don't you think? You've now dominated all of the headlines about party conference with your comment about Hitler Youth. Nobody knows what Labour stands for on policy coming out of that conference because all the headlines are focused on what you said, you absolute plonker, David Lammy. Now let's take a look at some of the reaction. Lee Anderson says, Labour have stooped to their lowest level yet. They've spent the past 3 days calling a third of the electorate racist. And to top it off, they wheel out this idiot to make outrageous claims. It's politics of the gutter. Patrick Christie says, I think David Lammy is happy to incite violence against Nigel Farage. There are plenty of people out there who will feel that violent action is justified if someone is a Hitler fanatic, which Farage is not. David Lammy knows what he's doing here. Harry Cole has said this is mind-boggling. Does he genuinely think that Farage in his late 90s was involved with Hitler Youth? The retraction is even more ridiculous, saying he's denied it. Denied the totally made up impossible scenario. A bit confusing, his apology, isn't it? Ben Leo says the biggest headlines that have come out of Labour conference all revolve around reform and Nigel Farage. Nothing about this government's agenda, no optimism, no energy or hope. Just silly insults about a third party. Labour are devoid of ideas and inspiration, and it shows, it looks desperate. It looks really, really desperate and like they've got nothing to show for themselves. All they can do is point fingers at Nigel Farage and say horrible things about him. Darren says David Lammy claimed Nigel Farage flirted with the Hitler Youth. Small problem, Farage was born in 1964. Hitler Youth was disbanded in 1945. Yeah, I did think that was a bit of a problem with what David Lammy said there. I don't think that you could join Hitler Youth in the 1960s and 70s. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that was already a thing of the past at that point. I mean, it doesn't take a history, someone with a PhD in history to know that. Darren says this isn't just a smear, it's historical illiteracy of the highest order, and this is the calibre of Labour's top brass. No wonder the country's in chaos. I won't play you the clip of him on one of the TV quiz shows, but you've probably seen it. Stephen Barrett, now I'm interested to see what you guys think of this. Do you think that David Lammy's and the Prime Minister's comments meet the threshold of inciting violence to the point that you should have police action taken against you. I've seen a lot of people saying that they should be behind bars for these comments. I personally think that they could incite violence indirectly. It could inspire people from Antifa, but I don't think they meet the threshold. I think the threshold should be where you've specifically called on a time and a place, for example, for someone to be harmed. So I don't think it should be investigated by the police personally, but what I would say is I would like to stop the two-tier policing and the two-tier justice we have in this country, where Lucy Connolly's tweet is considered to meet the threshold when it should have been far, far from the threshold of inciting violence. But Stephen Barrett, the barrister, has actually come out with this. He's calling on Mersey police to actually investigate the comments that were made, and he's done a video on his YouTube channel explaining potential offences that he thinks they could have committed. So that's interesting. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you think there should be any police action, or is this free speech that we should allow? Now, we've heard from David Lammy, we've heard from Keir Starmer, but what does Shabana Mahmood have to say? Does she think that Nigel Farage is a racist? Well, let me know if you can figure out what exactly she means here. Can you figure out from this comment whether she thinks that Nigel Farage and his policies are racist or not racist? She said this at a Spectator Fringe event. It's a little bit worse than racist. If it was racist in a funny way, it would be easier to deal with. I think it's immoral and I think it's extreme. Nigel Farage is playing the trick that I think he tries to play very regularly, which is he will say something that technically he can say is it's not racist, but what he really knows he's done is blown a very, very loud dog whistle to every racist in the country. I think that means he can always sort of claim plausible deniability. Did that make sense to you? Didn't make any sense to me. I can tell you that. What a load of waffle. That is what we call a word salad. So Shabana Mahmood seemingly sitting on the fence there. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this update. I'm Chloe Dobbs. Thank you very much for watching this video. Make sure you hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, so you can stay up to date with the new videos we are posting. See you next time.